Good evening, viewers. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9, where we bring you something relevant in the sporting industry of Trinidad and Tobago. Before I get into tonight's program, I want to say, I don't know how much of you all have heard of the incident with the Texonic cyclist, Kiana Lester, one of our top female cyclists. She was involved in a incident on Saturday morning during one of their training somewhere down in Siparia side. She's in the hospital right now. You will have seen Kiana on Axe some couple of times doing some interviews. We want to wish her a speedy recovery, and our prayers is with her and all the members of the Texonic cycle group. We also want to say a big shout out to Mr. Cadet and the Tobago House of Assembly, and to the loyal viewers that we have over in Tobago, especially the guys down at Calder Hall, where we stay normally when we go to Tobago. It's always a pleasure to know that you are locked on here to ACTN. Tonight we're going to be talking about the sport of drifting. Drifting is a relatively new sport in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, I had the opportunity to go to the final event of the 2016 calendar, and I enjoyed the sport. I enjoyed it very much. Maybe there are some little issues which we will be talking about with a member of the organization. And with me is Mr. Ian Cox, the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Drifting Association. It's a pleasure. Welcome to ACTN.
Thanks for having me, George.
Well, as I said in the opening, drifting, a relatively new sport in Trinidad and Tobago. Before I actually saw drifting, the only drifting I know is when you saw a drunk person a long time and you see them drifting from the white line on the road into the corner.
And under the wrong circumstances.
Under the wrong circumstances. And they're not walking, they're actually just floating and drifting. Now, could I compare that with the actual sport of drifting?
No, because we'd have far more control taking place.
Okay. Now, drifting is a extreme sport.
Yes.
Right? There are little dangers in the sport.
But with any motorsport.
In fact, with any sport, because with football you could get your foot break, But before we go into that, let's talk a bit about how did the drifting as a sport started in Trinidad and Tobago?
Drifting as a sport started in Trinidad and Tobago really with a small group of enthusiasts. I would have been one of that first small group, and we took an interest that we will have seen from television, YouTube, and we started trying to learn it, make more of it. And one of the people that I will give a lot of credit for, entirely most of the credit for that would be a gentleman by the name of Kerry Phillip. We had founded a group called Driftful Order, and out of that came the understanding that we would like to be able, in developing our skills, to encourage others as well. And we took that step further when we met people who would have expressed an interest, and we will have encouraged them, different groups that right now have become even larger in terms of people, their following and their membership, if I could use that word. And we have been able to, since then, evolve to a point where we have established for the first time this year a competition series where we ran 5 events, and we were able to give out a number of prizes and crown a champion for the year. Whereas in previous years the competitions would be individual competitions but not building to anything really great at the end. But we were able to achieve that milestone this year.
So how long is the actual organization was formed and actually started putting on events?
Trinidad and Tobago Drift Association is only about 3 years old. And in that time, we have progressed from having individual events, like I said, into our competition series. We originally started in partnership with another motorsport body called Autosport. They were having a series of events called Dragon Wine. We were able to speak with them. They recognized that there was an interest in drift, and they were seeking to incorporate and give us a foothold to try to launch from. So we were able to do that. We started basically having a simple competition at the end of one of their events. So we would seek an hour or two out of their day, and they were gracious enough to do that. And when we were able to build enough momentum, we went off and had an independent event. from the independent events, we have now gone into hosting a number of events each year. Each year will have had its challenges, but we have grown. And as I've told people, I consider the organization and the sport to still be in its infancy, even though globally the sport has progressed even more. The truth is that at 3 years old, one of the largest competitions that is currently running in the States is only 12 years old. So we're not that far off in terms of globally the trend. Whereas with many other things, you will find that because we are in the Caribbean region, we will be far further. So we consider ourselves fortunate to have been able to do that. We see a lot of interest being generated because it's a sport that both the spectators can derive a serious thrill as well as the drivers.
Yeah.
Because looking on, rooting for their drivers, and the action element is over the top, right? And we tend to have each event really build slowly and finally give you a crescendo at the end, which is what a lot of people tend to come for.
Okay. Now, is the sport governed anywhere under the governing body of motorsport in Trinidad and Tobago, or are you all affiliated with the Ministry of Sport? And if not, you know, how soon can we see the governing body being recognized and, you know, under the Ministry of Sport or the motorsport governing body?
Originally, we started from a point of view of simply encouraging participation. And from participation, we felt that we would be able to grow and earn people coming in with real interest. We are now, at the end of this year, having had discussions with a number of people where the issue of membership has come up.
Okay.
We have had discussions with the Ministry of Sport in the past, and we are working actively with TITASA, Trinidad and Tobago Automobile Sport Association, who is the umbrella body
For motorsport.
within the country. And from inception, we have always worked with TITASA and tried to work along with them, which is why we are hosted at the track.
Okay.
Right? Previously, we were at Santa Rosa before the track was available. As soon as the track became available, I took the initiative and I said to people, we need to go to the track. This is where the sport belongs. And we need to have that responsible face that motorsport has its arenas, and this is the arena we need to be. All right. So we are exploring membership because we did register as a non-profit with the intention of growing into that sort of structure. For now, we have a small management committee. Once we are able to finalize our constitution and we invite people to join, then we'll be able to take it to that next step.
So then the next step that we will be seeing is where you will hold elections to have like president and, you know, like an official. Is the sport growing?
The sport is growing. The sport is growing at a larger rate than many others.
And are you all in a position now? Because, I mean, you haven't had a constitution as yet, and the sport is growing rapidly. Are you all actually prepared to handle the volume or the growth, you know, in the meantime until your constitution, and then you have all your different... How large is the committee right now?
The management committee is very small.
Yeah.
Right? It consists of 5 to 6 people.
But is that sufficient? Because...
in terms of management,
I was looking at the tournament that I was privy to, and there seems to be a lot of work, you know, have to go in, you know, to get the venue and everything, you know. Okay, are you all, you know, that small can be capable of
yeah, we have been doing it for the last year.
Okay.
That's why we had 5 successful events.
Okay.
And as you say, it is management. So we will be able to delegate and bring in service providers where necessary to be able to treat with whatever is required for logistics and setup. And we've been able to do that. Over the time of our growth, we've been able to do it in such a nice and structured way that we have attracted a certain level of sponsors, and we are seeking more because as the sport grows, we would like to be able to offer more to drivers. And that's where that's what our interest, and the spectators themselves are growing also. And this is where the sponsors would be able to see a return on their investment in the sport. Interest as far as growth is also being seen in the rest of the Caribbean. We have had calls from other islands seeking advice on how to move forward, because at this point, Trinidad and Tobago is at the vanguard of developing drift within the Caribbean. Okay. There is interest in other islands, and there have been, I do not believe anybody has gone to the point of, at least in the English-speaking Caribbean, or the level of competition we have gone to. Okay. We will be examining the potential for 2017 to invite some of the more competent drivers from different islands for an event in Trinidad. We're hoping that will be something that we would definitely want to make a large event, much bigger than we would normally do, because we want to highlight the fact that competition in Trinidad is not just the end. It's just the beginning first in terms of our goals for developing this motorsport.
Okay. Now, when I looked at the sport, it has to be an expensive sport, because I would think that from what I saw after one event, you had to get 4 brand new tires.
You would think so, but typically tire wear is limited to the rear, where you have a lot of the action taking place. You will get less wear and tear to the front. But
regardless of what, I mean,
yeah,
because you have to
have that cost.
The wear and tear, the engine, because you know.
Yeah, you're always on power.
Things.
So the truth is, with many other motorsports, you'll find that is the scenario, and drivers take it in stride, and it is really about the passion, the love for the sport. So this is where also drivers invest a lot into their cars, they come out. We are trying to highlight the sport to as wide a public as we could, so that in bringing more sponsors on board, we could have a better event, to better accommodate spectators, but also push more back to the drivers to try to give a little something back. It's not just, yes, I want to drive, I want to have a time.
When you say give back, because if I'm entering a competition, I come in to win whether it's the first prize or the second prize. Yes. I ain't giving back nothing, except I'm looking to win the money to invest back into my motor car.
And this is where we want to be able to have enriched prizes for the drivers. Now, people may not be aware of it, but this year we had the very unique distinction of actually giving away our car as the first prize. We gave away a car, that championship, that was the big goal for the championship this year, a drift car that we got at a good price out of Japan. It is not registered for the road, which brought the cost down a lot, but the end of the day it is meant for the track. Right?
But, okay, that's a good point you're coming there too, because, okay, you're young in the business, right? You just started, and your first prize is a drifting car.
Yes.
So for the next couple of years, you can't really, you can't increase your first price, because after a car, what you understand?
It's just a better car.
It's just a better car. Okay. So the car is the first prize, and then you have what, second, third?
We gave prizes specifically for first, second, and third at both levels of competition. We have advanced and we have entry. The car was meant to be, and it provided that encouragement and motivation of drivers. It was almost a winner take all, because none of the other prizes could really compare to it, and we didn't try to have anything really comparable.
Okay, I mean,
here's what: when you win the World Cup, you get one big trophy.
Yeah, but what I'm looking at now, the sports. The sport is expensive, right, to maintain. And you have 5 tournaments for the year.
Yes.
Right? I would have, say, well, okay, if the car is worth 30,000, I would have tried to divide up that money. And at least as a sort of encouragement. Because, okay, you will know in any kind of sport.
Yes.
If this is the winner take all, right? Let's say the man who win this year, right, and he get the car. Let's say next year you come with a better car, and this same man decide he gonna enter and he win. Would not the other competitors feel, boy, is he sense, boy, we can't beat this fella,
You think they will be demotivated?
Yes, right? Where else, if I know, well, okay, I run for 5 competitions, and I run 4th or I run 5th, and I get $2,500. I could still buy some spark plugs. You understand where I'm coming from?
And I agree with you completely.
Right?
But right now,
because
the nature of the investment.
Because you know in Trinidad, anytime you're in a sport and you ain't winning, right? And you realize not even winning so much, but coming second or third, or getting some value, right? That you can put, because remember you talk about the drivers putting back.
Not the drivers putting back. We want to put back for the drivers to be able to achieve towards.
Right, but okay, right. So, I mean, if I get a little 2,500, I think I come in next year,
And
right?
that would be nice to do.
Right.
But even if we were to say, when we looked at, we analyzed, okay, what would it take us to be able to make this car possible? And we looked at if we were to take it and divide it along the way.
So the thought did occur?
Yeah, that
Okay.
consideration was made, and there was enough that would make it valid for 5 competitions, because you see, we would have to come up with...
No, I'm not talking about the 5 commissions, I'm talking about your overall,
champions. Right, good.
yeah, first, second, third, and fourth.
Very good. So we did the car, and there were prizes for the second and third place on the advance.
Let's talk with the advance.
Okay.
Right? We know, well, you are supposed to get nothing because you now start, right? But for the seniors or the more advanced drivers,
Yes.
right? What was
So we would have started with the car, and the second place they will have been able because we were blessed by Rash Resort, a weekend for 2, plus probably about
a weekend for 3, 2 and a car, and the car they're going with the car.
Well, the car was the first prize. That guy left already.
The person get second place, sir. yeah.
And he got that on a hamper, so he will have come away with a substantial value there. And the third place will have received value in terms of performance parts.
Okay.
Good. For the entry level, the first place would have gotten a set of rims, again going back towards the car. Second place will have been performance parts, third place performance parts as well for the entry level.
Okay, when you say performance parts
parts for their cars.
Okay,
for their cars. So
okay.
things that they put back into the
that's
cars.
what I'm getting at,
Right.
right? Because, I mean, if you want to encourage...
Yeah, so that was done.
Yeah.
We even had a nice bit of prizes for instance, at entry level, we wanted to recognize that person who will have been the most improved. So something was done for that person as well. And they recognized too at the end of the day, okay, points during a competition, while fully respected, there's also going to be a people's choice, a favorite that the crowd would have loved to have seen. Seldom do you see the favorite, the person people back in may or may not win, but we want to recognize that person even if they win or they did not win, right? And so we would have a People's Choice Award as well, and some level of prizes for that. Everybody who will have achieved championship status did leave with some sort of a prize.
Okay.
And from the response I got from drivers, they were happy with what they got, and the trophies for recognition of their achievement during the course of the year. Everybody who will have placed in each competition during the course of the year, each of the 5 will have received trophies recognizing their achievements also, so that they could take, like I told them, this is of value because you didn't just place in a one-off event. You placed as part of competition during the year. So it means that you were able to show yourself best on the day during the course of the year in a field of others, on a field of your peers. Okay. You can take this substantially, now go on your own, because drivers have to look for sponsors as well, and say this is what I was able to achieve. The guy who won entry level, he also happened to have won entry level most improved because he only started with us last year.
Okay.
And he was able to advance himself in that way. He also won some placements earlier in the year. So he left with 2 or 3 trophies, says prizes, sponsored by XR Performance Limited. And he is now motivated. He said to me, I am leaving entry. I am going to the advanced level next year. That is where you'll see me. I want to compete at that point, because if I don't go into that point, I'm not going to improve. I have done what I think I could do here. And I have to respect that of him, of a driver willing to say, I know I'm not going to be able to compete at the highest level with the others, but I'm not going to get to that level unless I throw myself into the frame.
Okay. We need to take a break. When we get back, I want to talk a bit about the difference between driving and drifting. Good. And how the judging system works. Yes. Because I guess if somebody's looking at this particular show and they want to get into drifting, or even for the spectators,
yes,
they will want to know how,
good,
what is the difference and how the points are allocated. Viewers, you are watching Scoreboard here on ACT, and I'm speaking to the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Drifting Association, Ian Cox, and we're talking about the sport of drifting. Right back after this short break.
Tiger Tanks Trinidad Unlimited is the premier supplier of logistic cargo carrying equipment to both the energy and non-energy sectors throughout Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean and Latin America. providing safe transport using our DNV certified equipment of material and chemicals is our goal. We provide services in tank and vessel cleaning, emergency spill responses, as well as hazardous and non-hazardous waste management and treatment. Our highly trained and skilled personnel provide a professional service second to none. Our state-of-the-art direct-fired thermal desorption unit provides companies with an almost instant removal of liabilities when waste is treated at our site. Tiger Tanks Trinidad Unlimited, world-class service to our clients. Tiger Tanks Trinidad Unlimited, thinking outside the tank. For further information, call 868-651-1544 or 1460 or 0130.
Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard on ACTF. Okay, Mr. Cox, we heard about the prices and everything. What we want to talk a bit now, we want to educate the viewers and the supporters of drifting. What is the difference between drifting and driving? Now, why I put this question out to you is because my first experience, I saw two different things, right? And I want you now to explain to me which is which.
Right.
Because I saw cars actually skating across the surface, right? And doing some research on drifting, it tells you when you are drifting the right way, the crowd gets into and they are part of the program. And then you saw some cars that really wasn't creating the impact, but they were really just driving.
Yeah.
How do you determine when the person is drifting to when the person is driving? What do you look for? And I'm putting you on spot here now because I saw that there were a couple cones.
Right.
And from what I gathered from people close to me is that you have to come as close to the cones as possible without touching them.
Yes.
Right? And you have to really glide across the surface. So explain to me.
Well, before we get into the real meat of it, I want to just point out that what you may have seen on the day is the difference between the two classes of drivers that we will host, advanced and entry. Because the entry level people are learning and would not, their skill set will not be as ready as the advanced level, you'll find that their initiation and continuation of a drift will not be as clean and as fluid and as smooth as the advanced level. And therefore their crowd engagement, and we know Trinidad is a very rough crowd to try to engage at any level, right? So you'll find that what I will give a lot of respect for these guys for, they come out, they compete, they try. And if they don't try, they cannot succeed.
Because in the sport, judges, you look for line, angle, and speed.
You're looking for line,
right?
You're looking for angle, you're looking for what we treat it as entry speed.
Right.
We cannot use overall speed because we are not at the level where we have telemetry or electronics helping us aid the judges in understanding how fast this driver had been proceeding.
So the judges for your events are locally based, trained
They
judges.
are locally based. They use our judging guide. We have...
how do you... They must have some head judge over the rest of the judges.
Right.
Right? How do you accumulate the points?
Good. So in utilizing our judging guide, it is divided with a description of what they would be looking for each one of the categories that they are judging. The judges would be okay around with that. They will have additional copies on hand to reference should they have a need to do so. 2 technical judges, 1 non-technical judge.
How many judges in all do you have?
3.
3.
2 technical, 1 non-technical. The 2 technical judges will treat with 2 of the 4. They would be responsible for any 2 of the 4 criteria. So you have line, angle, entry speed, and clipping points, which are the cones that you're asking about.
Yeah.
So the cones is what helps you to determine how accurate a driver really is. Because a guy could go out there and drift a course, and he could look good, but he's not very accurate. Clipping points means that you have to put this car at a particular point. You need to be able to maneuver, hold this car, and get it to that point. And then you are showing the judges, you are showing the crowd, I didn't intend to do exactly what took place with the car. Because you can find your way around a course or a track, look spectacular, put a lot of smoke out, but you weren't actually accurate. And accuracy is one of the major things that we're looking at. So clipping points gives you that gauge. How smooth you're able to get yourself to a clipping point is what will adjust with line. The entry speed is judged based on how fast you're able to attack the course, which is something that you could judge based on how you carry yourself through the course itself, the speed that you will carry, right? So angle is a little bit subjective because depending on the parts that a driver may have in his car, but basically you would be able to tell based on experience how much angle a car is doing in terms of the steering versus you will get 0 if you were to straighten up. Because the idea behind drifting is to remain sideways, right? The non-technical judge is supposed to represent a sort of crowd response, that ooh-ah effect. Did I like it? Did I not like it? And this is somebody at random that we might work with.
Now, is the crowd response taken into consideration in the judges when they are judging?
Not the overall crowd. When
you say not the overall crowd, how?
Well, there's no way that we could judge 300 people and their responses. So what we might have is somebody who is entirely non-technical, and they will render their opinion on what was the impression that they had from this particular drive. Did this impress me as an onlooker? Did it not impress me? Did I like what I saw? And
so how do you
subjective.
find this individual?
We might, in the past, what we have done sometimes is ask people from the crowd if they would like to do it. That's the randomness of it. Because we may not seek to have anybody affiliated with either side. It has happened where, for matters of transparency, we might say, okay, yes, we know you're with this group, but we think that you might be subjective. We'll give you the non-technical.
But could this person be biased?
There's the possibility, but the impact of their biasness is very small. Non-technical points do not contribute in a very large way.
How the point system operates? Like for what? How? Yeah.
So each one of the major categories, the driver will be judged out of roughly 10 points, except clipping points. That could be changed. For instance, if we have 4 clipping points, then you get points for each clipping point that you hit. If you only have 2,
maximum amount of points that a driver could accumulate.
It depends on the number of clipping points, but typically we would range between 3 and 4.
Okay.
So it might be 5 points for each clipping point. So you get 15 or 20 points.
Okay.
So clipping points represents one that if you hit a lot of clipping points, and especially to do the clipping points, it means your line would have to look good, right? Then you could earn a lot of competition points coming out of that. And what we have tried to do in the past is try to educate people, because we have given out judging information in terms of the criteria to drivers. They have that. And we have given it to the crowd for those people who have been interested. It's not something that is hidden, right? We have made it available in the past, and it's something that we have worked towards, because we based it on what I would categorize our level of drifting, professional, amateur, what is utilized at that level in the States in their tier system, their ladder system for Formula Drift. So we extracted rules in play for one of those lower tier organizations, and we adapted it to suit our conditions, and this is what we have been moving forward with. And we have made adjustments over the years to suit, based on experience, what may not have worked, what have worked, what did we get complaints about, okay, and we have been trying to tailor it. As I said, state of infancy, and while we are walking, we're not running just yet, but we intend to get there.
Now, the judges, were they, drift drivers in the past, or how do they keep abreast with, because you will know in sports, every day there are things changing,
Yes.
right? How do the judges keep abreast, and were they, former drift drivers, so they will have an idea. Because I knew when I was leaving the venue, there were people that were showing displeasure.
Yes.
Right, in some of the results.
Yeah.
Right. So how can you justify to these people now that these judges are qualified? You know, they are experienced. You know, who taught them? You know, things like that.
We have actually had training sessions with our judges.
Okay.
Where we would pick a day and we would seek, especially for the people who are not, how to put it, are not avid drivers, but they are avid enthusiasts and fans over the years, whose interest is far larger than many other people we will have met. And we will have had training with them. We will have had sessions where we will have gone into detail in terms of the judging criteria and its applications. I don't think that any competition could ever have results that will please everyone. What I can hope is that we could have an outcome that can be as fair as possible given the conditions on the day. Right? On any given day, you would find that drivers themselves will have challenges, whether they admit it or not. Because of the nature, the ego we have working in motorsports, you might find guys admit to things or they may not. And they may go out there with lesser than they should have. We try to monitor that as well. But fans, and this is what I have recognized with the competition, we have very serious and avid fans. So there are people who will have expressed full disappointment, and then I had people coming and saying, hell of a day, hell of a competition, I like what I saw. So I get it on both sides. Can't please everybody. But what we try to do is try to make sure that what we put in out there, we'll try to make as much sense as is possible, or as best as we are capable at this point. But I think that we can only get better.
Okay. When coming close to the end of the event, and you were going into the finals with the last 4, I think it was 4 going into the finals.
Yeah, you got a top 4.
A top 4, right. Now, I was taking some notes, but I was looking for the points of these 4 cars to know how they came in, right? There wasn't any announcement about points, right? Now, if I'm in a competition or any sort of sport or anything, and I'm going into the finals, I would like to know that when I came out of the semifinals wrong, I'm on 10 points. So I know now, well, okay, the person who is ahead on me on 11 points, I will need to do something extra to get that edge.
But there's nothing really extra to be done in the nature of the sport. And actually what probably is a point of clarification is that when the guys go into the top 4, it is as if judging starts all over again. You do points just to get into that top 4. What you do in that top 4.
But somewhere around there, I think I heard an announcement because I was looking for the first, second, and third to get the points. And I think you all mentioned the second place guy, he lost by 2 points or something like that. I think that
I was not there when those announcements were being made. So I may have been in the pits.
Right. So I was saying that if I'm to do like a first place, a second place, a third place, and a fourth place, you know, I would like to know if Harry came first. He had 40 points, and you understand?
Yeah.
So what you are saying is that even if I'm going into to a final round, the last set of points that I accumulate is null and void.
Yeah, that's it. Let's say we had 10 drivers compete on the day. And these 10 drivers are vying for that top 4. The remaining 6 who were not chosen, the points they have achieved up to that point, that's what they're moving forward with. Because the competition was run as points for each day. We had 5 event days and you carry your points going forward. So the guys in the final, points that they achieve in the final is what then would go into the championship points. Good? So at that point, you will have had basically, it was qualification almost, to get to top 4. Once you achieve top 4 and you start a run, you will have you have to run what you call a tandem drive, where you saw the 2 cars, which I mentioned at a point that you found was more interesting. And everybody does. The reality is that is also that tandem drive is not what all drivers can do. So this is where we kind of separate the sheep from the goat getting into top 4, and this is where you really need to bring a game now. In doing that, you are judged for a tandem based on the driver who is following. That's what you call lead. Sorry, the driver out front is the lead. Driver who is following is trailing. Good? So that's your 2 cars. Lead driver is judged on all of the points we discussed already. The driver following will be judged on proximity and angle only, because he cannot do the line. He has to follow the other one. He can't do clipping points. He's trying to follow. Then you switch it around. The one who was following will now lead, and the one who was leading will now follow. Combination of the lead and follow points is what will give you the person who wins. So a driver could have a great lead, but then have a very poor follow. He is unable to stay close to the lead car.
So you said you have 5 tournaments, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I win the first 4, right? And on the final event for the year, you have two rounds to drive, right?
You have 2 competition runs.
Two competition runs.
The highest one is utilized.
Right. You'll be judged at, right?
Yeah.
Let's say I have a mechanical failure in the first run, right? So and let's say the area where the judges are,
Yeah.
right? I did everything there perfect.
Yes.
But when I go around the corner, I malfunction or shut down.
Yeah.
Is there any points will be allocated for that where the cones are?
You finish the judge area,
Yes.
then you are judge, you have points.
So then you're judged. So
Yeah.
if you come out of that area and you go around the corner where the guy ran off, right there, it doesn't matter. You are judged.
The judging point, like for that competition,
Yeah.
it was made clear that what would be the final judge clipping point. And actually what was unique to that competition, because our second to last competition had been rained out and we didn't actually have competition. So it means that drivers who were present on the day didn't have the benefit of competition to see what would have happened and how they could have adjusted themselves within the standings. We put an additional clipping point that was beyond the judge area, meant to be a bonus point for competition championship only. The idea is if they were able to achieve that clipping point, any driver, they will have 50 points going towards their overall championship standing. Good? And what we were able to do is we actually had an incident like that where we had a driver finish the judge area, his car broke, he could not get to the bonus area. He was judged, his points were tallied. On that day, it happened to be that the 4 people were chosen, or 4 people had made better drives than he did.
Okay.
So he didn't make it into the top 4.
Okay.
Right.
Although he would have come for the second run and do a perfect.
There was no perfect run.
No. When I mean when I said perfect,
He would have achieved the runs.
He didn't shut down this time. He went. And,
he will have been judged based on the run.
Okay.
You know, if anyway in saying he said perfect, meaning that he completed the judge area again.
Yeah.
Good. Yes, he will have been judged. But again, you have 2 competition runs, and we use the higher of the 2. We do not tally, we do not sum it. You get 2 competition runs to achieve your highest. Good? And that is something that continues as a trend throughout. So what we're really doing is giving our driver 2 attempts to do their best.
A best out of 2.
Having practiced earlier, right? It means that you have an opportunity to go out there, you lay it on the line. Okay, if that run wasn't too good, you could go back and adjust and seek to do better the second time around.
Okay. We need to take another break. When we come back, we want to talk about reflection on the 2016 and what can we expect for the Drifting Association going into 2017.
Okay, cool.
Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
Tiger Tanks Trinidad Unlimited is the premier supplier of logistic cargo carrying equipment to both the energy and non-energy sectors throughout Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean and Latin America. Providing safe transport using our DNV certified equipment of material and chemicals is our goal. We provide services in tank and vessel cleaning, emergency spill responses, as well as hazardous and non-hazardous waste management and treatment. Our highly trained and skilled personnel provide a professional service second to none. Our state-of-the-art direct-fired thermal desorption unit provides companies with an almost instant removal of liabilities when waste is treated at our site. Tiger Tanks Trinidad Unlimited, world-class service to our clients. Tiger Tanks Trinidad Unlimited, thinking outside the tank. For further information, call 868-651-1544 or 1460 or 0130.
Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard here on ACTN. I'm speaking with Ian Cox, the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Drifting Association. Now, we have heard so much about the sport of drifting and the impact on the sport in Trinidad and Tobago. Reflecting back on the 2016 and the 5 events, what are some of the major challenges that you faced, and would you say that the 2016 was a successful year, regardless of whatever transpired during the year?
Well, with any new competition series, there would be challenges. We listened to various stakeholders and some of their complaints. We tried to adjust. And what we hope to do is to adjust even more going into 2017. We started, actually, my most major challenge for the year is the fact that while we planned 5 competition dates, I had a situation where our first day was a rain-off. So we didn't have any competition.
But you think 5, using 5 competition is sufficient? Because I would, any sport that have your adrenaline running, like powerboat racing, car racing, do you think 5 tournaments is enough for entire calendar?
We would love to be able to do more, but we have to work within the constraints of usage of the track because there are a number of other bodies that seeking to use the track. That's the first item.
And that's the only track that is
available that
can hold drifting.
That is the only space that we could refer to in any kind of form as a track in the country. It is not the only space that can hold drifting because previously we will have hosted drifting at the Santa Rosa Horse Racing Car Park. But there were specific challenges with that particular arena. For instance, the surface was very, very rough, so it was more costly to drivers to operate there. As soon as the track became available and it was paved, we moved there. It represented a far lower cost operation on any race day. And there are a number of other areas, but what we have found while we have approached people, there's an unwillingness to go down the route of being allowed to host the event. And that became even more pronounced after the incident in Wallafield for the CMRC event, which was very unfortunate, but it did mar a lot of efforts that other motorsport bodies were trying to move forward with. So we have had to work past that challenge as well. Many people do not know, for instance, that the Drift Association, following that incident, was actually the first body to host an event at the track. So we had to meet a number of different criteria, the protective services, in order to do so. TITASA did their bit in readying the track and putting the infrastructure in place, and we were able to meet to the satisfaction of the protective services of what we could put into place. And these things are costly. It runs into the cost of the event, but we did it. And we had a successful event. The day was well participated, and in fact that day I think we had as much as 40 drivers out during the course of the day. And it was one that we learned from in terms of safety, because safety is our #1 priority at the end of the day.
Have you had any mishaps in the...
Nothing significant.
Okay.
It is motorsport. You're going to have fender benders here and there. It goes without saying. We have had no major incident. We've never had one, and I hope to keep a clean slate going forward. And we were actually commended by our insurance agents for that, right? So we hope to go into 2017 maintaining that standard, because we hope to also encourage more corporate bodies to get involved who want to have who has an interest in motorsport.
Okay. Who are some of the major players, when I say major players, in the drifting, who, you know, people really come out to support or to look at, you know, and who that you can use as a face, because you're building any sport now, right?
Yeah.
So you will want to showcase, you know, your best drivers, your best cars. You know, who are some of the major players on the track?
The major players, there are a few of them, actually, and I think it's mainly because of longevity in terms of how long they've been around. We have from both north and south, you have a number of different drivers. We have, for instance, the youngest one who I'll mention is a gentleman by the name of Bradley Birbal, his older brother Regan. From south again, we have Rajiv Suchit coming out of DB. Right. Up north, we have Devon Bartholomew, we have Roger Hutchin. The winner of the car, he's a grassroots champion, so to say, coming out of Kamuto, Jerome Emmanuel. All of these are guys are faces that we have tried to promote in the past already.
How do you all promote? What
we try to do is on our Facebook page, we would highlight the drivers themselves.
Okay.
Right? We would highlight them on the page at different times, especially if we get some nice facials. What we were hoping to do is go to the point where we could have to be able to post in a separate album, like a driver profile, information about the person, a little bit of their history and that kind of stuff. Resources just not there just yet to be able to make that a reality. But it's one of the things that we want to be able to do, because it's part about promoting the actual drivers themselves, to be able to show that these guys are marketable and that any sponsor getting on board with them. So we have encouraged drivers, for instance, create an Instagram profile for yourself. Focus on the things that you have done, things that you are doing. Showcase yourself, right? Make sure that you have to do your bit for self-marketing.
Yeah.
Right? But we are trying to do what we can as far as promotion. So each event, you'll find that we'll highlight the driver by name and you showcase the car. What we have done also is for a few events where time has allowed during the course of 2016, is we have brought all the drivers out with their cars and introduced them to the crowd.
I think I saw that in the final here, where you had all the
We had a drive pass.
Yeah.
But that was actually a scaled down version of what we have done in the past, where we would park the cars up, have the drivers come out, hang out on the fenders and the bonnets, and we introduce one by one. So all of this is where we're trying to get the crowd more involved with knowing who the drivers are, who are the guys behind the wheels. Because these are the people that need to be promoted as part of the sport. And we have been able to achieve that in certain ways, because I have seen where drivers have gone to car shows, and especially where children are identifying them. They want an autograph. They want to stand and take pictures next to the cars. So we're starting to see some results of that. We start seeing an increase in that. And we're hoping that with the help of either new sponsors, the sponsors we have on board, we could go a little further with that for 2017.
Now, you said that you're looking at bringing in drivers from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Is that a possibility in 2017? And when will your first tournament in 2017 start?
2017, we haven't finalized the dates just yet with TICASA.
Are we going back with the same 5 tournaments?
We would probably have to go back with 5, because we have at least 6 other bodies that are vying for spots during the course of the year. And another reason why I want to point out, George, that we try to work with 5, we could increase it a little bit more, but you have to work within what are our logistic resources capabilities, the first thing. Secondly, we try to give enough time for driver recovery and vehicle recovery. We know it's expensive, money may have to be spent, gathered to put into the car. So while it's 5 public events, there are also other days that we host simply for general practice, where the public is not involved, the public is not invited. This is about drivers only, drivers interacting with drivers, learning from each other. So that's what the community environment we try to encourage. And people like it because they don't have the pressures of competition on that day. Good? And when we went into our prize giving, I told guys, there's to be no drifting. We're coming out, we're going to have a prize given, we're going to interact with each other. We're going to have that human interaction, because we too often, for the year, we're just competing, right? So allowing for recovery and what is happening with the track otherwise, these were the 5 events. We could be able to stretch a 6 to 8 or more, but for now, from a growth point of view, this is what we have would really make the most practical sense. The reality is, for instance, that I saw an attrition rate of drivers for the last event because of the fact that while TTDA event 4 was the 2nd of October. And it meant he had a 2-month gap to our final event. Plenty time to prep, plenty time running up into the finals. Prizes on the line. There were a number of small events that occurred in between that drivers went out to. And the cars were used. They took a lot of licks. And out of that, we saw an attrition rate of the event. So this is where drivers had to be responsible for themselves also. You have to be strategically minded.
Okay. Anything that was done in 2016 that you feel that you and your organization needs to change or to you know, increase, you know, any areas?
There are a number of different things that I would like to see improvements on. I would love to see improvements in terms of drivers' discipline. This is something that we want to work on. Discipline in terms of adhering to safety, discipline in terms of timely arrivals, discipline in terms of adhering to the rules of the day, because all of these things affect safety. Good? And it's something that we have had improvements with, and we intend to maintain and continue with it, because we would like to introduce, for instance, regulations that we sought and received from Formula Drift, which is the model that we are replicating to some extent. And we would like to get vehicles to the point where they are safer than they need to be. But it is, as you put it earlier, motorsport is expensive. And we're going up in small tiers, especially as driver skill increases and driver speeds or drift speeds increases, we will start to clamp down on these things even more. Meaning to say that this is a level that we are at now, this is the level of safety, we are good now. As that increases, you need to increase this to match where you are, till we get to the point that safety outpaces driver capability.
Okay. Who are some of the drivers that, let's start with the younger ones, who that you were impressed with this year and you really looking forward and believing that in 2017 they can create a bigger impact on the sport?
I would have to go to the entry-level competition for that. Advanced, they are the advanced, they will do what they do and they will put themselves out there. A lot of these guys are already on the top tier. They don't need special mention. I would like to see a gentleman by the name of Rajesh Rampasad go up into the advanced level and start competing at that point. I would like to see a gentleman by the name of Adam Mohammed and Mikhail Mohammed advance themselves as well. These drivers, especially Mikhail, showed a lot of improvement during the course of the year. And he has already indicated he is going to advance, and I want to see what he could do for himself in advance, because only when you are competing at that level would you push yourself. And if you go back to the Olympics and we looked at that, that camaraderie and that rivalry that was happening between Bolt and the Canadian sprinter.
Yeah,
right?
DeGrasse.
In him trying to keep up with Bolt, he broke the Canadian record in a heat. Bolt later scolded him, for lack of a better word, told him he would pay for it.
He did.
And he did. He did in the final.
Yeah.
But I think that he was happy because in seeking to keep up with what is better and greater than you, you outdid yourself. And this is where, when we see drivers going to advance, that we will see these things taking place.
What age bracket you have in the sport? Who are some of the young,
age bracket is very simple.
And you must have a driver's license to take part in the sport, right?
Yeah, that is straightforward.
Although the cars are not driven on the road.
Yes, because there's an experience that we have had with the licensing office years ago, where they intervened at a motorsport event and they made that point about it. Even though it is a closed circuit, etc., they would like to know, because the license really showcases to them that this person has achieved some minimum level of driving skill. That is basically what they are saying. We don't know what is happening otherwise. And the youngest person we have is Bradley. He has come a long way, and I expect to see a lot more from him in 2017. I think that he is one of the favorites right now, and he will continue to be that because he is young, he good looking, right?
So you have a face for the sport then?
You have a face for the sport, right? And actually we have spoken with him time and time again. Where possible, we have ensured that he has been interviewed by the Sports News on other stations. Right, so we have been able to put some exposure to him as well as other drivers, and we think that we could see more out of him as well as many other drivers who are coming up. I think that for instance, we have seen other interests from drivers of a similar age who may have thought to themselves, well, I don't think I could get involved, but seeing Bradley involved, they want to get involved now.
Okay.
He has broken that barrier.
Okay. We just have about 2 minutes. Any closing comments?
What I would have to say, George, is that, thanks for having me for the interview. I'll have to thank all of the sponsors who made 2016 possible, especially Ranger Prizes, Carib, most especially Lube Tech with Total Oils, Maguire's and VP Racing Fuels, Blue Mountain, XR Performance for some of the prizes that we got. Right? We had people come on board. I'll put it like this. When I first went to them, I said in December 2015, we're going to do our car next year. People weren't too sure. I wasn't too sure I was going to do it, but we did it. And I hope to go big again for 2017 and get as many people involved.
A bigger car?
Not necessarily bigger, but perhaps better. But that will be guided by what the drivers say they would want to do. Because we will have a special meeting on that in January. That will guide 2017 and its prizes.
So then 2017, I could see everybody getting money across the board. And
Maybe.
And no car.
It depends on what kind of value we have coming in.
Yeah,
we were fortunate that sponsors put certain values in, that the events made, we put our value in, and we're able to do that. If we could raise the kind of money that would do that and still have a worthwhile championship prize, no problem. If we can't have a worthwhile championship prize and do that, then I am going with a worthwhile championship prize.
Okay.
If I have to pick one or the other, it's going to be a big championship prize, and that's what I was left with this year.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't think we have much time again. I just wanted to ask you quickly, and I forgot to ask you, the 5 tournaments that you had, right? There were no prizes for each of the tournaments.
Trophies.
There's trophies
Recognition.
and points gathering to come into the finals.
Not to come into the finals. Each one of the events represented points towards the championship
Towards
by
the
itself.
championship.
Yeah. So the last event will have had points contributing towards the championship overall.
So even if you in front in event number 4, you ensure to win
No.
because of the points.
You need to compete.
Right. And these points are given to the drivers so they know exactly where they are.
Yeah, they will have had points coming in to the last event. In fact,
no, at the end of every tournament, you give them their points.
yeah, we at competition 3, we gave points out. October was a rain-off, and the equal points were awarded across the board, so the standings didn't really change.
Okay.
So the August standings will have remained basically in play going into the event. So everybody will have been familiar with where they were.
So going into the last number 5, everybody would have known the points that they would have had. Okay, well, let me wish you all, I want to first of all thank you for giving me the opportunity to really, let the viewers, know exactly a bit more about drifting as a sport, because as I said, it's relatively a new sport.
Yeah.
Right? And you see sometimes, you need to know the rules and the regulation, the guidelines and everything pertaining to a sport if you had to get into the sport.
And compete effectively.
Right. So I now know exactly when I come to the next tournament what I'm going to be looking out for, because I have a greater idea of the points.
And if you like, I could give you a judging criteria.
From what I gathered here, I have an idea of how the event is run. That is why I ask certain questions.
Good.
But again, thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing your organization with a bigger and better 2017, and I'm sure I will be there next year to cover a lot more of your events. So thank you again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Well, viewers, interesting sport, an interesting topic, the sport of drifting. You heard it from the president, Ian Cox. We want to thank you for staying with us. Remember, if you missed any part of this interview, there will be a rerun on Wednesday at 1 p.m., so you can stay tuned. Be blessed. Have a productive week ahead. See you next week. Same time, same channel.